Good morning, DeAnna. Welcome everyone to Ask DeAnna Anything. Today we have DeAnna Batdorf here, who is a lymphatic specialist, Ayurvedic practitioner, and my body educator, and the DeAnna Essentials formulator. Nothing is TMI for DeAnna, so thank you all for being here today and asking your great questions. So the DeAnna Essentials mission is to be a place for all people to heal, learn, and grow. We provide a community of support to empower individuals with knowledge, tools, and skills for their optimal well-being. And looks like I have.
There we go.
Okay, great.
Yay!
Yes, tell us where you are right now, DeAnna.
Yeah, so I am in Williams, Oregon, where there are so many farms. I'm extremely inspired. And I am at my dear friend Elise and Jeff's farm, which is called Oshala. So I don't know if everybody has heard of Oshala Farms, but it is so impressive. It's mind-blowing. And I mean that by, hundreds of acres of medicinal Western herbs, that go into so many formulas. And so it's just incredible. And their drying room alone is mind-blowing. And it's just really pretty impressive. And they are hosting me, hanging out here and enjoying. And actually, yesterday I went to Banyan Farm. I've known the owners of Banyan Botanicals for 28 years. And they're right here. They started a farm here. I'm going back today to just continue chatting and enjoying the farm. And I love this little community, and it's so sweet. And you can really taste the difference when your food is fresh and straight out of the ground, and people who love farming are growing it. So it is just feeding my soul. And it's amazing to have landed here when I just was at Spirit Weavers, a women's gathering, Spirit Weavers gathering in Cave Junction, Oregon. And that was really powerful too. And we have a camp there called the Areola, which is just like the Northern California Herbal Symposium. So if you miss Spirit Weavers, the Northern California Women's Herbal Gatherings is going to be the first 2 weekends of September. And we have the Areola there also. We do lymphatic education and what is it to touch yourself and to feel around on your breasts and just get comfortable with our friends right here.
Yes.
And be willing to pick it up and move it around and investigate. And once you know one lump and you know what's right, you would know what was wrong if you found something. And that is very empowering, because we sit in a lot of fear of cancer and a lot of fear of not knowing our bodies. And it's just really exciting. After all these years, I've been at the symposium doing breast checks now for, I think it's 9 years, even though I've been going and teaching there for about 26. Whew. And just education is everything. Touching ourselves and giving permission to explore is everything. And it's just really the lymphatic system makes such an impact on people. We're like, what? It's my immune system? What? My hormones move through this channel, and my lymph river meets my bloodstream at my heart. And people are just really inspired and empowered. So I'm so juiced up. Yes.
I would be so curious to hear, what have you seen change in people's awareness or interest in those, what did you say, 27 years of going there? And have there been any big shifts in people's consciousness around breast checks or around breast health, or what have you noticed change over time?
Well, something that I probably can't necessarily prove because it's not like I'm doing, blind studies or you know what I mean? Like I can only go off of like what I see, what I hear and what has come with time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit more of a flow than the standardized research. But I was reflecting this weekend, and a few of my students and a few clients were at Spirit Weavers that are used to seeing me at symposium. And here we haven't had it in 3 years. And they're kind of like, oh my gosh, I need my breast checked, but also, just like people expressing just the impact and the ripple effect
Mm-hmm.
of how many people are inspired and then do the same for someone else. How many people bought guashas, like 3, 4, 5, 6 guashas, because they're kind of like, these are my go-to gifts. Like, this is like the best gift I could give someone is the education of like what it is to investigate and move your lymph around. But the biggie I'm really, really feeling, and it's a great question, is how few people that are maybe under my care that I've been seeing now for so long, and how few get cancer. So
Mm-hmm.
something I can't prove, but it's like obvious that like I see thousands of people. And if we look at the numbers of how many people get cancer per 10, I would be seeing a lot of it. And the most of the cancer I see is definitely and autoimmune disorders is a new client, someone who found me because of what I do and they're in that situation. But when I look
Mm-hmm.
at the thousands of people who are under my care, and that means taking care of themselves through me, right? I am blown away at like, wait a minute, none of my clients seem to be getting autoimmune disorders or cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that say for learning how to move your limb?
Definitely.
What does that say? And it's really starting to add up. I can look at my 30-year span and easily say, whoa, something's going on here, even if I don't have like this perfect, standardized research to be able to prove that. I can see that and I can feel that. And then I just think of how many people are maybe not getting cancer because of those people telling those people, other people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's so inspiring because I think, at least personally, cancer seems like something that is completely uncontrollable and something that I would just have no idea until it was really kind of a late stage. So it's really inspiring to be just like so aware of breast health in particular and these kind of shame areas that you talk about that really we just need to bring that love and attention to so then we can prevent it early and just be aware of our bodies.
yeah. Yeah. So, and
Awesome.
our areolas, because I was saying like I got to get areola camps out for, men too. I got to restart my men's clinic or at least have some conversations more. Maybe I should do kind of a webinar on men's health because I really like working with all people. I want more men to be chiming in, asking questions. I would love that for this particular thing we're doing right now. And I'm happy to have anybody. But when we look at like the percentages of men to women, I'm like, ooh, I'd really love it to be 50-50 and really 33-33-33 because I would love to have just as many they thems. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, that would be so perfect if I could hit that perfect balance, that beautiful balance of like the all-encompassing, and then every culture and every color we can think of under the sun from there in
Mhm.
those groups. Oh my gosh, that would just be like a dream come true. And it's going to be something maybe I just need to make sure I focus on and make sure everyone does feel included. But
Mhm.
it is beautiful to be at a women's gathering. I love that idea. I can't
Mhm.
wait for the women's symposium, but I'd love for there to be some access to chest care and the men that, the fact that men get breast cancer too, and they get cancer also,
Mhm.
and I think that's an important aspect. It's like this is a medicine for all people. Yeah.
Totally. And we'll put in those links to the Women's Herbal Symposium in the show notes so that anyone who's interested in coming and seeing you at the areola and your students, that they can definitely find that. And we'll keep everyone posted on other gatherings or symposiums you may do in the future that are open to all people. And so then everyone can come into your famed areola tent. Sounds great.
And,
Well,
and let's make sure we put a link in there for Oshala Farm.
yes,
Oshala Farms,
definitely.
and also, Banyan Farm, just because, they have a great internship. Oshala has an amazing little herb camp coming up that's really cool. But man, you can even ask for them to, grow a plant that you need for a certain percentage of pounds, and like they'll literally grow it for you according to what your needs are. And that's just really amazing. But they don't even really need to be doing that. They have so many species and so many important Western herbalism based plants. And we can link them, but I will definitely take some pictures later. I'm going back over to the farm itself. I'll make sure I take some pictures, send them out to everybody. We can, get you all engaged in just the beauty and the vastness and the, they really have developed a business that is just powerful, very inspired.
I can't wait to see what collaborations you dream up with them. I'm sure that there's all sorts of exciting things coming down the pipeline. Awesome. Awesome. Well, shall we dive into a few questions?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Our first question today is from Cara. Thank you. So the question is, hi, DeAnna. I just love your podcast. My question is regarding bloating and swelling in the abdomen due to Hashimotos. Regardless of what I eat, the bloating is quite bad and quite painful. Any herbal recommendations? I eat gluten-free and dairy-free, mostly cooked foods. My dosha is vata. The bloating interferes with my mental health and my choices for clothing. I don't wear anything form-fitting because I often get asked if I'm pregnant. In gratitude, Cara.
Oh, I totally know what that's like. I'm somebody who carries my main percentage of weight in my abdomen, so I totally know what that's like. I just want to first validate that, that's a tricky thing, and then it doesn't feel good to have someone ask if you're pregnant when you're not. So I get that. I just want to validate. And yeah, let's talk about this. So the bloating comes from the thyroid low metabolic function. But I want us to remember that Hashimoto's, and I'll try not to go too far into it, but it's an important detail. It is, to me, an adrenal, kidney adrenal depletion picture. And the adrenals, when they're outsourced too much, they then will leach and take from the thyroid. So remember that all our glands are a system. There's 7 of them. It's called the endocrine system. And they all, share functions, but they also will, take from each other in their time of need. So when you have full on adrenal tap out, fatigue, then it starts leaching from the thyroid. So I do want to make sure we're having a conversation about something that people don't think to do when they're bloated, because bloat is either water, like we might even want to say, is this water bloat or is this air bloat? And those are 2 different things. So if you have water edema bloating, and it's going to be kind of soft and a little more loose. But if you have that, you're probably going to more want to think about like, okay, where am I getting salt intake? Can I get good salt versus bad salt? So get my ebook on water and electrolytes, $5.99. So that's simple enough. But it would explain, salt relation. And we do get edema when we cannot process, processed salt, and that's a problem. If you're having gas bloating, which is most common with Hashimoto's, and it's really considered a hard kind of distension, and then there's a lot of rumbling and different kind of irregularities that happen with it, most common to vata, then you want to think of nourishing herbs. You want to think of your demulcents. because that is meaning that there's not enough lubricant. Like, okay, think of your gut as a compost pile for a minute. We need some water sometimes we need sometimes to alkaline, and sometimes we need to create more acidic, which means you need to make a little more hot or a little more cold, and it needs some water, or it putrefies and it goes gaseous. Okay, so that's what's happening, is things are putrefying and they're going gaseous. So you need like marshmallow, chia seed, flax meal. You're going to want to think about like the nourishing tea. That's kind of what the nourishing tea blend is based on, is that demulcent base. And you might want to think about probiotics, and not just eating them, though I'm a big fan of that being my on the regular, but you might want to do a 3-month round of probiotics, and really rebuild your probiotic prebiotic colony of lubrication, because all of our microbiome, all of our immune function lives in that mucin, that lining that has to be lubricated throughout our mouth, our esophagus, our stomach, our small intestine, and our colon. And that's how we digest our food. I mean, as we know, we need to liquefy things for them to be digestible and absorbable. So I'm really going to say those are going to be my faves, is just what lubricant, what main demulcent, as we call it, are you going to implement into your tea? This can be raw milk or raw butter or yogurt. It depends on if you do dairy or how you feel about that. But there's a lot of probiotics. They just have to be raw. That's where all the probiotics and the enzymes are, but they are lubricating and nourishing as a food. So, and this would also be things like parsnips and yams, So I really think when we're bloated, we don't think we need more lubricating, because we just think, oh, I feel so kapha, like heavy, water, earth, make mud. But gaseous is so different than muddy. And then those gases still need a coating, a lubrication, So that would be the main thing I would add in to see if that makes a significant difference. And then I just am going to do the last little shout out on spices. So you could be chewing on cardamom seeds. You could make I have the most beautiful cinnamon saigon. Saigon cinnamon is the sweetest, most beautiful cinnamon I can find, which is why I carry it. Cinnamon Ceylon is more bitter. It's a true picture for like maybe type 2 diabetes. But that Saigon cinnamon is sweet and nourishing. And if you've ever just, soaked cinnamon in water, the powder with water, it'll make like a gorgeous cinnamon sludge. If you put those cardamom seeds in your mouth, they'll get all kind of slippery and lubricated. And then you'll get to see, how much you get that coating from those two spices also. Yeah.
That sounds incredible. I'm imagining some of those parsnips and yams with butter and cinnamon, and sounds delicious. Ready to go home and make some.
Yep. And Shatavari is the other Ayurvedic herb, that would be very specific. Shatavari would be, right up the alley of like the demulcent in Ayurveda. And it's got a nice little enzymatic base. It's asparagus rhizome. Yeah.
Nice. That sounds like a great opportunity to love up on your gut, Cara, and really give all those nice, juicy, warming foods. Sounds great. Okay, we have a question live from Ms. Thank you. And that is, hello, I'm wondering how much longer do we have before you take down the My Body Mapping classes?
Oh,
I'm currently watching to review them all.
That's great. I know who this is, DeAnna. I know. Okay, so yeah, and I'll be doing that class again starting, what is it, November or December, through Gathering Time. So I'll be doing it in person at Gathering Time, and also doing it via Zoom simultaneously. And you register still at the DeAnnaEssentials.com. But I am teaming up with Gathering Time out of San Rafael to do it again. So what we're doing with body mapping year to year is basically you're able to access body mapping ongoing. But the difference is from year to year, every time I reteach it, the videos that I did that are live are obviously different than the year before, because I'm doing a redo. And then you get kind of brought into that body mapping class, and you're able to then, still access the recordings. So that's how we've been doing it. Otherwise, we're going to have to have body mapping available, multiple times on our program, and it just doesn't work. So every year I update it, but it always means you have access to it. And how cool, because that means I'm actually giving you access to updated information. What am I talking about and how am I explaining it from year to year? I'm always getting better and revising things as I go. So in that way, it is an unlimited time, because I believe those things we have to relearn and have to access throughout our time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's such an incredible,
right, Abby?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an amazing lifetime gift to give someone, that they can continue learning with you and keep reviewing. And I feel like that really speaks to your desire to spread this information to everyone who's interested in not just, have a quick learning opportunity and move on with your life. It's really about integrating it for the rest of your life. So that is awesome. Okay.
I'm drinking Oshala Farms Be Well.
Ooh, what's in that?
I should go get the bag and see. I'm going to.
Okay, great. How exciting. Yes, thank you, Ms. This sounds like an amazing place to go visit. Hopefully I can make it up to Oshala Farms at some point too. If anyone there is listening and wants to send in questions, that would be great too, as we're waiting.
I got plenty to talk about if nobody's here asking me questions.
More questions too, but just wanted to send out that opportunity.
Let me look and see. Elderberry, nettle, rose hips, burdock, echinacea herb, elderflower, red clover.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing
immune detox packaging. And she just has tons of tea formulas, and they literally have such an amazing ability to just harvest efficiently, so respectfully for the land. They get every little bit of that plant, and then they dry it immediately. And when you use these teas, and I know I have beautiful teas and it has their herbs in it. So, my teas you'll be experiencing also, but it's like almost like you're drinking it out of making tea right out of the garden. And there's something very special about that for me. So yeah.
That's incredible. Mm-hmm. Do they have opportunities for people to buy their products online or to come in person?
Absolutely. Awesome. And they're in a lot of stores too, but you can go right online and buy direct. Perfect. And you can buy bulk.
We'll include all that in the show notes too. Sounds wonderful. Okay, we have another question live from Savannah, who says, my hair has fallen out the past couple of years. What can I do?
Okay. So very interesting about hair falling out. There's two primary reasons that I see this happening. And, it's interesting because we are so often on this podcast, we are coming back to hydration and lymph needing to move, right? I feel like a broken record, but I also have to follow the truth. I have to follow the truth. So hair falling out, this is the top of your glass, right? Your hair is at the top of your glass. If your glass gets too empty, then you do not have the hydration and the cycling of your fluids to keep the luster and the strength of your hair in its follicle at the top of your dry glass. So that's one of the very first things I like to just address. And we're back to the need for electrolytes, the need for omega oils, and the need to keep your lymph river moving. And really making sure that it is cycling so that you're getting that volume, and that blood flow to make it to the top of your head. And we do that by water volume. So that's one thing I think is very important here. So it's like we're still back to Atlantic gray salt, and thinking about like a beautiful, raw olive oil or a beautiful coconut oil, or making a pesto so you can just like, maybe minus the Parmesan because you don't really need it. It tastes great without it. But really thinking about what, you're going to do to get those raw seed oils
Mm.
and gray salt, and those, it's everything for making sure that your lymph and your blood is flowing and making it to the top of the head, back down to the feet, back to the top of the head. And
Mm.
that really is the primary reason we see hair falling out, is from getting tapped out. And again, that's kidney oceans are dry, and then now you're running on adrenaline. And then unfortunately, adrenaline is the driest, hottest hormone in the body. And then that dries us out even more because we're running on, essentially like a credit card. You know what I mean? Like it's not real. It's just fight or flight, it's survival only. And we are unfortunately living in survival. And then you get too much stress on top of it, and boom, we hit a wall and my hair falls out. So
Mm.
this is very common, and unfortunately, it's way too common if you ask me. Like I see it so much, it's just like, whoa. And then the other thing, which I think we talked about last podcast, so you may even be able to, listen to that one and see what it says. But heavy metals. So
Mm.
it's the other reason where I might see, but I've never found someone with heavy metals who isn't fully deficient and depleted, dehydrated anyway, because they leach all your energy and all your fluids go there trying to liquefy a heavy metal. And it can't. It's not what its job is. Your immune system starts coming to your rescue. It can't break it down, and so it causes a lot of inflammation, which then water only boils so long before it dries out. So
Mm.
this is the truth, and we cycle those metals and minerals through our kidneys, which puts pressure on them. So heavy metals and dehydration, they go hand in hand, but sometimes somebody's hair will fall out from just being too depleted, and then other times somebody has a little more compounded issue, and I consider getting a heavy metal panel,
Mm.
and really like a full panel of heavy metals, barium, copper, many, many things. And I would just say, hey, if you happen to have a copper IUD in this person, if you happen to have a copper IUD in your body, that itself causes a lot of hair falling out, a lot of issues with the kidneys. I'm not a fan of the copper IUD, and there's a lot of people who could educate you even more. You might want to look up Tamara Wilder, and she is really the person who I would call the expert on sort of the history of copper and IUDs and what can happen. But, hair falling out is a big one, with heavy metals in general. That could be mercury in the mouth. That could be lead, from soil. Those are going to be just four of the most common ones I would consider if you're having to choose which ones on a panel. I would first choose lead, mercury, barium, and copper. They used to do full panels and tell you everything, and now they sometimes are like, pick a couple, and you're like, oh man. So those would be my four top ones. Maybe
Great.
aluminum.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's so helpful, and something that can feel quite invisible.
I don't know if everyone can hear me or if you can see me. I'm going to see what I can do. I think I might have just lost Abby. If you are there, maybe I'm going to say something else because I do think I might still be live. Let's see how it's going. Can you hear me, Abby? Nope, I can't hear you. But can you hear me talking? Hmm.
Hello.
Okay. Are we
Hey,
back?
service has been restored.
Yay!
Awesome. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody.
That's the way it goes.
It really is sometimes. Okay, great. Looks like we still have Ms. and Savannah with us. Thank you all. Awesome. Well, did you have any last thoughts that you wanted to share on the hair falling out? Or
Well, I do have just a couple because I love to give the remedies, right? Not just the what's
great.
going on. That's great. But you think your hair is going to fall out more if you touch it or scrub it, and it's not true. When your hair is falling out, there's areas that are going to give you soft spots, and you're going to feel little soft spots that are sometimes sore. And you really want to get in there with like some ashwagandha bala oil, which I have, and do a scalp oilination, and then go in with the guasha, and you just want to work it and work it and work it and find those little soft spots and go over them and exercise them, and they'll kind of firm up and tonify, and you're strengthening your scalp, and their hair will grow back. So I just want there to be that, like, your hair will grow back. If it's heavy metals, you might keep losing your hair until something changes. But if it really is from stress and adrenaline and kidneys, by all means, you start getting hydrated and really scrub that scalp. If you do have some more hair that falls out, I just want you to be clear that, like, it was going to fall out anyway.
Mhm.
It's not, hair that you made fall out. So I usually have to give a little encouragement around that because you don't want to lose any more hair. So it will only help you to gua sha.
Mhm. I really appreciate the rawness of these questions today and just how people are. There's such sensitive issues with our beauty and our bodies, and so it's so relieving and helpful, I'm sure, to hear these suggestions from you and all be kind of held in this community together. So
I
another question from Dawn: is there really any products that can reduce eye issues besides surgery? Issues like bagginess under the eyes.
Wow, look what is coming up today. Kidneys, kidneys, kidneys.
It's kidney day.
So just so you know, this area right here under your eye, this is your bloodline connected to liver, spleen, liver to the right, spleen to the left, comes down to our bloodline. So the center line in here is circulation blood. This is heart, and this is kidney. And then our little lovely crow's feet are our adrenals, which sit right on top of the kidneys. They're a little tiny adipose layer away from each other. So as soon as our kidneys are out of ocean water, those adrenals are, elevated and start working for you in survival. So we read the skin and we read these areas very specifically. So Puffy tells us that the kidneys are really tired and they're not cycling blood well, because our kidneys filter blood, and blood filters by the water volume in our body. So blood pressure is literally water volume. And we're just not talking enough about that. So yes, it's not moving because there's not enough volume of water to move it. And that means that the kidneys will just kind of get really tired, and all that water just is like, really, do I have to cycle you? And it goes out into our tissues. So it might end up in our hands, or low blood pressure down in our ankles. And for some people, it might be more isolated and it may not be a full body experience, and it's just the puffy under the eyes. So this is absolutely the kidneys talking to us. If you're getting dark under your eyes, then we know that there's a little bit more of a true deficiency, or like a true picture of dehydration. And you could even say, whoa, this is just like my family, because the kidneys, just like lung, heart, liver, spleen, these are all organs that are so vital to us, we can't live without them. So they're considered deep, vital organs. We have superficial organs that are like the worker bees of the body. And then we got the vital organs, and kidneys are one of them. So you may say, oh, but everybody in my family has that, or that's actually more culturally designed for me. And I totally agree. That's how cultures look like each other. That's how families look like each other. But it does mean that that's a culture or a family bloodline that might have more kidney issues amongst it, just like other cultures have more heart or more lung or more liver or more spleen. And then they show up in other areas of the body, like maybe it'll be more this line here on the liver, or like I have a spleen line, so it might be more spleen deficiency, which is very Eastern European. And somebody else will have more heart with the shape of their nose, or the tip of their nose and the nostrils, and that's going to be lung. And kidneys just happen to be under the eyes. So, that's really the baseline, and everyone should probably take my body mapping class, because I share the whole entire face map, and we talk about reading the skin on the map. And then we also talk about the tongue, and what does the tongue have to say? And how do you read the tongue? And all of these are nerve endings. So it's not like they just said, hey, let's make this liver and let's make this spleen. It's like that's literally where the autonomic nerve line ends in the body. And that's what makes up our face map, our tongue map, our hands, and our feet, as we know as reflexology, also called shakani. And so, we really are maps of what our nervous system is trying to tell us. So when we have things going on underneath our eyes, our nervous system is literally trying to tell us that the kidneys are jeopardized. And that's what shows up under the eyes. So what can you do? Well, we're back to gray salt, people, because everybody needs it. I mean, if you keep listening to me and haven't bought it yet, like we got to buy it and use it, so we start moving on to some other things. But it's showing just our lack of knowing, what hydration even is. And we are the same volume as out, in the world. So if we know we're screwed, if we run out of water out there, we need to know that, like, we're kind of going to not be so happy. And our body's going to give us answers. It's going to tell us and give us signs, so we don't just run out of water before it's too late. And that's why the kidneys talk with the eyes. And that's why when we're tired, our blood's not moving as well. And we're tired, and then it doesn't move through the kidneys as well. And then it floods the tissues instead of cycling through the kidneys and going uptaking to the heart, because kidney is heart health. And instead it's like, meow. And then it all down to the ankles, down into our eyes, and it's a sign of fatigue. I would ask this person, perhaps there's some little things you can consider beyond getting your gray salt today. But I really think it's important to have a little bit of an understanding of like, when do we get off of our phones and our laptops and our computers? Like, when do we get off those things? Because our adrenal, we need to relax and do some resting from 2 to 5 in the afternoon. And then sometimes people are like up on those, our laptops or our phone until wee hours. And that is a 100% surefire way to age. That's how I'm starting to give it to people. I'm like, let's talk on a vanity level.
Uh-huh.
Let me hear what I have to say about hydration in the kidneys. Let's talk about vanity. And I think we all can kind of, really be able to track ourselves enough to know when we stretch ourselves too late into the night, that's when we get the puffy in the morning. And we also have to think about our intake, our consumption at nighttime too. Because it's really interesting to me how people will say, well, I don't drink any more water after, dinner because I'll pee all night. And I'm like, but if you're frequently peeing, you're not absorbing water. You know what I mean? And then that's a tricky thing to stop drinking water. And then unfortunately, people start drinking wine, or they're like, I need to decompress. I need a beer. I need a cocktail. I need some wine, And so it's interesting how we'll stop drinking our water, not to pee, but we'll dehydrate ourselves further. And so no guilt, no judgment. I mean, I'm going to be 100% honest. I've done it too. So, I'm not afraid to speak on those things. I'm not trying to be some, perfect health person. I'm a woman of moderation, and I love my play and I love my social interaction, but everything comes at a price, and we have to make decisions on how we're going to compromise from there. So if you do know that you drink at night, it's a great way to get puffy eyes. You might want to think about having a half a cup of aloe in or fillet at nighttime, and really getting your aloe vera juice in, and making sure you're just kind of balancing that out, or maybe you have some little electrolyte water that you drink before you go to bed, even if it's in a concentrate and a smaller amount of water, because at least you're going to stabilize your kidneys. So we, eventually it's kind of comes down to like, let's look at like what's really getting to the puffy eyes. You could just be dehydrated and working your butt off, and maybe you have a big old family and your mama, and woo, right there is not that much sleep and always on alert. And that's a kidney picture. For someone else, it might be drinking. Somebody else, it might be staying up on their computer. So hopefully I'm helping for this person to just take a moment to be like, okay, what am I doing from 2 o'clock on? And how can I kind of curb that or shift that and see how my eyes shift too.
I wonder if you have any recommendations for ideas, other things that people can drink or enjoy in those later evenings to decompress or slow down or take some self-care time that are non-alcoholic, but still give that feeling of just like chill, take the load off at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I think that's why my nourishing tea is so popular, and why I love it so much is the fact that it truly is nourishing. I often have people add a little bit of the gray salt into it. If you don't mind a little, people don't think to salt their tea. It's actually a really smart way to make it more nourishing and more hydrating. But that nourishing tea is a good way to go. The other one that is actually at Banyan Botanicals, since I'm here visiting their farm, I mean, I've been using and playing with and in business cahoots with Banyan Botanicals since its conception, which is, I think, 26, 27 years ago, same as DeAnna Center. So pretty powerful. But they have an amazing old remedy called Shirwan Prash. And it's kind of considered Ayurvedic jam. And it's an adaptogen with spices. I mean, it's a huge list of herbs, really old traditional formula. And Chyawanprash is so sweet and yummy in a tea. You know what I mean? You could add Chyawanprash with the nourishing tea, and it is just like sweet. It's almost like dessert
Yeah.
medicine. You know what I mean? Or you could just even have like just a little spoonful of Chyawanprash. You know, if you're looking for, I've also put Chyawanprash in a little bit of coconut yogurt or even regular yogurt if you eat it. And you add and you make Chyawanprash yogurt, and it is so tasty. I also make cinnamon yogurt, cinnamon cardamom yogurt. Buy a container of yogurt, put a whole bunch of cinnamon cardamom powder in there, let it sit for a couple days, stir it and eat it. It's incredible. But that Chyawanprash can become your dessert while it also becomes your nutritive at night. And then again, you know, milky teas. That's what we would do in our Ayurveda to calm down the kidneys. You would take any tea you're making and you would make it with whatever form of milk you want. The most nourishing milk we have for kidneys is hemp milk or oat milk. And coconut does really well too, and it's more cooling. So those are some of the things I'd be thinking of. And, you know, but oh man, try that nourishing tea with the add of Chyawanprash from Banyan Botanicals. It is like, so good.
Wow. That sounds incredible. That sounds so tasty and such a nice way to decompress in a way that also helps you feel nourished and healthy and juicy. I think that people need to just have a starter pack from DeAnna. That's the salts, a guasha, and something to help you just take a load off and rest and relax a little bit, because it sounds like so much to address.
Guasha nourishing tea. And maybe a breast cream, which I should probably make a chest cream, shouldn't I?
Exactly.
I should make a chest cream that's like specific regulators for male tonic. I could do a male tonic chest cream.
Awesome.
Don't you think?
Definitely.
It's kind of what I set the body butter on. So body butter's there too. And it is so brilliant. So that would be the starter for now. But yeah, I'm getting a good idea here that I think I'm going to see what I can do to make happen.
Yeah, that sounds great. We'll let everyone know once we're ready to send that out to the world.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up our time for this morning, I'm thinking maybe we should talk a bit about the Birth Alchemy course that I know you're about to do an Instagram Live to talk more about. So if anyone's interested in tuning into that, will that be on the DeAnna Essentials Instagram, or will that be on Terry's Instagram?
I believe it'll be on both.
Okay, great.
But I think it's definitely going to be on ours, right? And yeah, so you should join me, and literally in a half hour's time, I will be doing a introduction to Birth Alchemy. It starts in July, and July 16th, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm teaching it with my dear, dear friend and co-teacher, Terry Simmons. She is one of the most autonomy-related home birth midwives that I've ever met. She is very radical. She is independent, and she is seasoned. We're talking thousands of births. And she's worked at birth centers, but she's mostly been independent. And one of my favorite things about Terry is she has always made sure that she is available for those that cannot say necessarily consider or think they can afford a home birth. So she has figured out a way through her entire career to not only, you know, do everything it takes to keep a mama at home safely and know when that's not possible, but boy, does she have some amazing tools in her toolbox. But to make sure that there's availability for home birth, you know, for like primarily Spanish speaking, you know, people. And that is just really, really powerful. I am so impressed with her career. And she is now mostly doing internship programs for those that want to continue learning with her, and then also co-teaching the Birth Alchemy course with me. I feel so honored and so lucky to have her on. She's taught me everything I know in the world of women's health and the foundations of what I know around pregnancy and birth. And Birth Alchemy is a brilliant course. I mean, it goes from like fertility to pregnancy to each trimester to labor to postpartum. And we make sure there's herbs and remedies infused throughout the entire program. She is a real true master of flower essences. And my focus has been on the use of aromatherapy, aromatherapeutics. And then we both have Western herb backgrounds, so we bring the Western herbs into it too. But I don't find very many birth courses like we're doing in the way of like full on autonomy and inclusion and the dynamics of creating a birth team. And just what does that really mean? And step by step, how do you create that so that you have the flow of your labor and your time with your babe? And goes through the herbs kind of like one trimester at a time, one situation at a time. And we're a really good team because we've both got some pretty radical backgrounds in like the trenches of people's health and health journeys. So
true.
Yeah,
I met Terry the other day, and then I was listening to some of her videos that will be part of the course, and I had chills the entire time. Everything that she and her clients were talking about was so empowering and beautiful to hear how they work together. And I can just only imagine now what an incredible teaching team the two of you all will be. So I'm excited to listen in.
Really good. Hey, I'm going to do one last thing before we go because I know we're finishing up, right?
Yeah.
So I just want you to know I have all this beautiful cleavers.
Ooh.
And last week, cleavers, or our last episode, was like so lymph. This one was very kidney. So your questions are right up my alley. But I want you to know that cleavers are very sticky in the yard, right? And they're super, super sticky. I'm going to just like show you all this.
They're so funny.
Thing. And when you put them, like when I'm harvesting them, they stick all over my body like this. And I was harvesting the other day, and I've done this before, but I looked up and it was just like, oh my God, there's just like lymph everywhere. And it's got the little lymph nodes, and then it's got all the lymph vessels. And literally, I'm going to show you, like, it looks like the lymphatic system.
It totally does. Oh my goodness. With all the little lymph nodes.
If I had these all over my body, I would look just like the lymph. And I just want you to know that cleavers are still here in Oregon. Please use them because they don't last forever. And you can only tincture them. You can't dry them. You can make an oil or you can tincture them for preservation. And eat them while they're around if you still have them. They're probably gone in California, but cleavers is an amazing lymphatic tonic for any dosha. So no matter who you are, you might want to pick up a cleaver tincture and start taking that, just a little, 2-dropperfuls every morning, and just keep your immune system cycling and keep your blood flowing. So I just wanted to introduce you to this brilliant cleavers plant.
Yeah, what that makes me think of is when you're talking about making a pesto earlier, that is one of my favorite ways to eat cleavers. And what a perfect way you can get in your omega oils, you can get in your salts, you can get in your cleavers. Right. And also Ms. says to juice them. That's a great idea too. I could imagine.
Yeah, juicing. And then sometimes what I'll do, because I know they're not going to last, I'll just juice the whole entire bunch. You wait until they seed, so they're a little bit more high potential, and then you put them in ice cubes and put them in the freezer, and then you have them to make instant tea with at any time of the year. Exactly. So yeah. So and cleaver pesto is so tasty because this is a very tasty plant. And if you taste it, it's very salty too. So it's got a lot of electrolytes. That's part of keeping that river flowing, is keeping that water hydration happening. So Cleavers gives a lot of those to us, but I just thought I'd share one of my favorite little plants.
I love that Cleavers is just like, pick me, I'm going to stick to you. And then I think we would be remiss to not finish off by giving a plug for the Portugal course, which will just be so incredible. I'm sure those listening have already heard about it, but if you haven't yet, DeAnna is going to be teaching in Portugal in the end of September, September 28th through October 22nd at the most incredible, beautiful sanctuary of a place, Casas de Azena, and we will be diving so deep into each of these questions around hydration and the lymphatic system and everything that DeAnna knows best. So you'll definitely want to be joining us there for that course, and you can find it all on the website, in addition to all the other courses that we've chatted about.
My handouts are insane. You will not believe how much information you will leave with. I don't even care if I'm going all the way to Portugal. I never skimp on my handouts. I want everyone to leave with an entire full book. It's like hundreds of pages long, and it takes you through everything so you can just really live in it for years to come. So it is definitely a life book. It's not just conversations. It's like handouts you're going to be using for years. Yeah.
That'll be your carry-on going back.
They're awesome. Pairs of shoes and some pottery.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, DeAnna. This has been such an informative session. Thanks everyone for sticking with us through the technological difficulties, but it's always a pleasure. So everyone head on over to Instagram, the DeAnna Essentials page. We'll be chatting more about that birth alchemy course, and be sure to subscribe on the YouTube and Spotify or wherever else you listen to your podcasts, because we make all these shows available there too.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your day, and I'll be seeing you soon on Instagram, DeAnna.
Adios.